Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome. Say hi in the chat. Let me know you're there. And don't forget to like and share this video with somebody else. Let's just begin with a prayer. God, help us to receive this word and to receive everything that you have for us this evening, God, and that you would help us to grow spiritually from it. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, last week I received a lot of texts, and there's just a lot of things going on with a lot of you, and, trials and, not so great things happening. And so over the weekend, last weekend, God was giving me this word to share with you. So today I want to talk to you about ways to have defiant faith. 3 ways to have defiant faith. So starting out, number 1, remember your source of strength. Let's look at 2 Timothy chapter 4, starting in verse 14. This is Paul talking. And he said, Alexander the coppersmith did me much harm. May the Lord repay him according to his works. You also must beware of him, for he has greatly resisted our words. I read that the other day and it just got my attention. Paul mentions that this same Alexander, and back in 2 Timothy 1:20, or maybe it was 1 Timothy, at any rate, he's in there. But that Alexander's faith suffered shipwreck. So this was a man who, was a Christian, believed in God, but he said, he did me much harm. And so he's warning Timothy about him. So, he was already going through some stuff, Paul was. He was already, dealing with this guy who had caused him much harm, and he said he greatly resisted our words. So what that could possibly mean is that Paul was, he was in a trial. It says in the next verse in 16, at my first defense, no one stood with me. So his first defense could have been like he was at the trial. And so perhaps this Alexander testified against him. We don't know for sure what happened, but at any rate, this guy did him much harm. And so, then, Paul's troubles don't stop there. It continues. It says, my first offense, no one stood with me, but all forsook me. Yeah. Fun times. Paul was really going through it. He's standing at this trial. And even though there was a lot of Christians in Rome, when it came down to the possibility of these other Christians who may have also been charged, they fled, and he took it as more of a weakness from them, not as a malicious thing, like Alexander the coppersmith was malicious, but not the other Christians who forsook him when he was standing trial. So, he said about them, may it not be charged against them. So he's going through a lot, just being on trial, that would be a lot. But then you have all these people that just made it even worse. And I'm sure that was just a hard thing to go through, Opposition was there. It was a spiritual opposition. It was a physical opposition, or in the natural, And so what about you? Have you ever felt like you're, not just under attack, but people who should be standing with you aren't standing with you? Maybe they fled too. But verse 17 says, Paul writes, but the Lord stood with me and strengthened me. Paul remembered his source of strength. Even though everyone around him was failing him, God didn't fail him or forsake him. That's a good thing. And why? It says, so that the message might be preached fully through me, and that all the Gentiles might hear. Stop right there for a minute and just, let that sink in, that, think about it for yourself. God sees your call. He's called you. He sees your circumstances, but he's your strength to help you fulfill that call, no matter what the opposition that's coming against you. And continuing with this passage, at the end of verse 17, Paul says, also I was delivered out of the mouth of the lion. Now, that phrase, some think that was referring to Nero or some other judge, because Paul was not sentenced to death. And that is because God had the call in his life. He preserved him. He wanted him to do the work of the ministry. And so God delivered him and preserved him. Like it says in 18, the Lord will deliver me from every evil work and preserve me for his heavenly kingdom. To him be the glory forever and ever. Amen. So, number 1, again, was to have defiant faith, is to remember your source of strength. Number 2, to keep your eyes on God. You know, a lot of this is just simple, but it really makes a difference when we are purposely choosing that. So go with me to 2 Chronicles 20, and let me start out by reading to you the first, I might just read parts of verses, because there's a lot of details, and I'm just going to focus in on certain phrases or facts. So verse 1, it happened after this that the people of Moab with the people of Ammon and others with them besides the Ammonites came to battle against Jehoshaphat. And then some came and told Jehoshaphat, saying, a great multitude is coming against you. So how would you feel if you had found out that a great multitude was coming against you? Scared, right? Yeah, probably scared. And Jehoshaphat feared. It said that in verse 3. Jehoshaphat feared. But this wasn't written, this story is not in here so that we would fear, but so that we would know how to get the victory over our enemies. It says in verse 3 and 4, I'm going to read those two. We're going to find out what he did to get victory, a part of it. And Jehoshaphat feared and set himself to seek the Lord and proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. So Judah gathered together to ask help from the Lord, and from all the cities of Judah they came to seek the Lord. That sounds like good things to do. He set himself to seek the Lord. He proclaimed a fast. Judah gathered together to ask help from the Lord. And then, King Jehoshaphat started praying. This is how it is, God, And there's something that jumped out to me when he's praying, but then in verse 12, he's still praying, and he says something that I want to read to you. And he says in verse 12, for we have no power against this great multitude that is coming against us, nor do we know what to do, but our eyes are upon you. We don't know what to do. That's a statement that's not filled with hope. But, sometimes we get there and, we're praying that way, but we're as we're praying, we start to feel hopeless or even pray in a hopeless state. But, we don't want to camp out in hopelessness, If you hear these statements coming out of your mouth and, I just don't know what to do. This is really bad. It's always something. I just don't know what to do. Just read that last phrase. Let me read it to you. This last phrase of 12. But our eyes are upon you. We need to keep our eyes on Jesus and remember that he's our deliverer. He's our source of strength. Keeping our eyes single and full of light and not letting a shadow of discouragement or depression to come across our countenance. Because defiant faith says, I am keeping my eyes on God and his promises. So we don't have to be afraid no matter the opposition. I love the verse in Psalm 34:4. It says, I sought the Lord and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. Not just one fear, not just two fears, not just the little fears, but all your fears. So defiant faith says, I'm not focusing on the multitude of yuck that's coming against me because my eyes are on God. My eyes are on his promises. So number 3, defiant faith knows the value of praise. We're going to continue right where we are in 2 Chronicles. We finished up with verse 12 a moment ago, but now we're in verse 13. And it says, now all Judah with their little ones, their wives and their children stood before the Lord, waiting on God. Listen, if you need to hear from God about something that is time sensitive, God will answer you in time. Okay? He's going to come through for you. And so as they waited before the Lord, the Spirit of the Lord came upon the prophet in verse 14. And I'm going to read just some powerful parts of this prophetic word to them. It's 15 and 17, and it says, do not be afraid nor dismayed because of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours but God's. You will not need to fight in this battle. Position yourselves, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord who is with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Do not fear or be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for the Lord is with you. So I don't have to worry because the Lord is with me. I'm not alone, okay? And so what happened next was two specific things. In 18 and 19, I'm going to read that to you. And Jehoshaphat bowed his head with his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem bowed before the Lord, worshiping the Lord. They worshiped. Verse 19, then the Levites of the children of the Kohathites and of the children of the Korahites stood up to praise the Lord God of Israel with voices loud and high. They praised. They worshiped and praised. You know, they knew the value of that. And so, wow, I mean, what they did next, and this is, you probably know, you probably have heard this story because it just kind of sticks with you. It says in 21, he consulted with the people. He appointed those who should sing to the Lord and who should praise the beauty of holiness. That's great. You know, getting all of our praisers together, or getting all the ones who are going to sing. And, you know, all of you have all volunteered. Great. Guess what? You guys are now going in first before the army. You ready? I'm like, can you imagine? But they did that, and they were saying, praise the Lord, for his mercy endures forever. And then in 22, it continues, when they began to sing and to praise, the Lord set ambushments against the enemies. And so what happened was that there's all these different enemies coming against them, and the enemies started fighting amongst themselves and killed each other and wiped each other out. And so King Jehoshaphat and his people didn't have to do anything. You know, God took care of them. And then they were 3 days gathering the spoil. It tells us in verse 25. So defiant faith knows the value of praise. Listen, there is no demon that wants to hang out in the presence of God. If you put on praise and worship music, it will change the atmosphere of your home or of your car where you are. So defiant faith knows the value of praise. Defiant faith keeps the focus on God. Defiant faith remembers God is the source of strength. See, I can't be spiritually lazy and think that I'm walking in victory. Say this with me. If I don't learn how to receive from God, I'll always live in defeat. We need defiant faith, and that takes patience. Isn't that what the Bible says? So in closing, I'm just going to read to you one last passage. It's from Hebrews 6, verses 10 through 15, okay? I'm focusing on the word patience. For God is not unjust to forget your work and labor of love which you have shown towards his name, in that you have ministered to the saints and do minister. And we desire that each one of you show the same diligence to the full assurance of hope until the end, that you do not become sluggish, but imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. For when God made a promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself, saying, surely I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply you. And so, after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. See, patience is a very important factor in defiant faith. So have patience, because just like God came through for Paul, and God came through for Jehoshaphat and the people of Judah, he will come through for you. So rise up with defiant faith. Okay, that is what God is telling us today. Amen. All right, I want to see you in person on Sunday at 10 o'clock. All right, I'll see you there.